Welcome back to CBS News 24/7. All right, in the last 90 minutes, you had quite an opportunity to hear from President-elect Donald Trump speaking there at the podium at Mar-a-Lago on a wide-ranging buffet of issues, as it were. So let's speak to CBS News political leader, the man who leads us here at CBS News, Fin Gómez. Fin, let's start with what the president-elect had to say about Panama and the Panama Canal. I thought there was some interesting discovery there.
No, absolutely, Reed. I think what it was very interesting, essentially what the president-elect said, not just about the Panama Canal zone, but also about acquiring Greenland, essentially saying that he would not rule out military or economic coercion to acquire those two strategic areas. Of course, Greenland being in an autonomous territory under Denmark, and also the Panama Canal, of course, being given back to Panama some time ago. In fact, I thought it was interesting here as well, Reed, that he mentioned on a week, very significant week with Jimmy Carter and the funerals that are taking place this week, some of which the president-elect is attending. The president-elect Trump was very critical of Jimmy Carter's policy on the Panama Canal zone, saying that he basically gave it away that he wants to acquire it back, essentially. But also he made news, Reed, when asked by our own Caitlin Huey Burns about whether he would pardon those January 6th defendants who were charged with violent crimes, if he would also pardon them. He said he was going to take a look at that. He would not rule it out, but to expect major pardons. And of course, Reed, he also discussed changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America.
Well, and speaking to sort of that regional conversation, he also had some things to say about who he thinks should run for prime minister in Canada, saying that he would win like that. But then he said, but let's not be prime minister, let's be governor. Who did he say he'd like to see as the leader of our neighbor to the north?
Maybe not on the top of the list for many of our respective Canadian colleagues and their politicos, but Wayne Gretzky is who the president-elect suggested should run for either prime minister or governor. Of course, President-elect Trump talking about how he believes that Canada should become the 51st state there. So a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek remark there towards the former NHL Hall of Famer who is friends with President-elect.
And also I listened to much of what he had to say from Mar-a-Lago beginning in this newscast and then in breaks of this newscast, and really sort of take it in. This is also an incoming president who is not done grinding axes. He referred back to many things that he said were frustrations for him, upsets with him, and you kind of get a sense that he is going to have an eye to righting what he sees as wrongs that were committed against him.
Yeah, very much a set of grievances that we heard in this 70-minute speech with just 13 days until he's inaugurated. But he went after the current president, went after President Biden and his sweeping block on offshore drilling. And saying that he's going to reverse it on day one, and he again reiterating that they're going to drill baby drills, one of his mantras from the campaign cycle, of course, but also going after Jack Smith, the special counsel, and really a lot of his critics, if you will, including Democrats, and really getting a sense for this. What would likely be the tenor of this incoming administration, Reed.
Well, and speaking to what President Joe Biden has done regarding those offshore drilling spaces, and they are very large tracts of land, thousands of acres, right? But in order to reverse this, the incoming president has got to have support from Congress. This is not just something that can be done on day one. Does this signal that the president-elect feels like he has really bulletproof support in our nation's House and Senate to get these things done on day one, like he's saying?
Well, he definitely believes that he does. And if you look at the imprint that he has on the Hill right now, they basically navigate towards the will of his of the rudder that he is, on the boat that he is on. And frankly, he believes he has, that strength. But if you look at the new House balance of power, there's not a lot of space there, not a lot of space for him to maneuver in some areas like this. So if there's even some detractors or some some lack of cohesion there on the Republican front, it could be problematic for his intentions here, especially with this and what some Republican critics or some Republican operatives that I spoke to who align themselves closely with the incoming administration say when they look at what the Biden administration did with this offshore ban, essentially it really puts the incoming Trump administration in a corner to really utilize those areas, especially with tariffs coming into place and being implemented. This was an area that the Trump team believes that they could maneuver and get some essentially some financial revenue from to sort of make up the difference when it comes to tariffs. But again, it really just shows, Reed, that this is going to be a very, very drastically different administration that will be coming in just less than 2 weeks compared to the current one.
Hey, stay with me, Finn, because we're going to deliver on a promise that this broadcast always does. When we see it, you see it. CBS News 24/7 bringing you breaking news. An appeals court judge has just refused to delay Donald Trump's planned Friday sentencing in his New York hush money case. This comes on a day when, in that wide-ranging news conference, the president-elect seemed to be very happy about a judge blocking the release of Jack Smith's report. Now this news, there will be no delay in the sentencing.
That's right, which is expected on, as you said, Friday. The president-elect is expected to attend that sentencing via virtually, which is an option that the judge gave him. But look, if you're looking at the previous if you're taking a tally of the previous legal cases and where they've pretty much gone to the way of Donald Trump, in favor of Trump, right? But this, of course, has not changed. He's holding it, the judges, on Friday, and there will be, and the president-elect, with less than 2 weeks into his new term, will be sentenced.
Well, Finn, we know you were watching this news conference from Washington, D.C. We also had Caitlin Huey-Burns in the room where the news conference happened, but also watching from our nation's capital the Democrats who are readying themselves for President-elect Donald Trump to take the oath of office and begin a new term of leadership. Let's go ahead and listen in to what the Democrats had to say after the president-elect had these words from Mar-a-Lago.
Donald Trump is going to have a lot of press conferences. He's going to say a lot of things, and some of them are just going to continue to be crazy. We're not falling for this trap, and the one bill, two bill, it doesn't matter. What the American public need to know is that Donald Trump is working with House Republicans on efforts that will hurt them, on efforts that will have the potential to reduce Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid, that will harm their ability to qualify for supplemental nutrition. They've talked about eliminating Head Start, the Department of Education. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And what they are talking about is they are huddling behind closed doors. They do not believe in transparency. They are trying to cut a deal, just like Speaker Johnson cut a deal to have his gavel. They are trying to cut a deal to hurt the American public. That's what this is about. And so they're going to have a lot of closed-door meetings. They're going to say a lot of things. But at the end of the day, that is their fundamental focus, is how they provide tax cuts to millionaires and billionaires, and how they cut programs that hurt people. That's all they're trying to do.
So a counterpoint from Representative Pete Aguilar, Democrat of the state of California, there on CBS News 24/7. I want to ask you about this, Finn. It was said in the days after the election that a lot of Democrats felt like perhaps the Trump administration has overplayed their hand. And it seems like we are seeing an emerging strategy by Democrats, hoping that perhaps the Trump administration cannot deliver on some of these campaign promises and really send that message strong into the midterms and elections ahead. Do you see that emerging strategy there?
I do, Reed, and that's a great flag. It's exactly what I've been hearing, and speaking with some top Democrats here in Washington, D.C., that they do expect that part of their strategy is to sort of this wait and see approach, if you will. They have 2 weeks. They do believe the Republicans will end up imploding. There'll be likely some infighting down the road, but for the next 2 years, with the Republicans in power, it will be difficult for them to maneuver. Politically, they do feel that there will be a swinging back of the pendulum within the next 2 years. Obviously, it's a long ways to go until those 2026 midterms. However, they do feel that there is some hope, they say, for them to really come out of the wilderness and really start leading again and making gains politically. And again, their biggest strategy right now, Reed, is just to wait back and let it happen.
Fin Gómez, political director, with his fancy white band Apple Watch that no doubt during that news conference from Mar-a-Lago went off just like mine was. Ping, 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 ping. All right, whenever your watch goes off, so does mine, and we'll continue having this conversation on CBS News 24/7. You have a good day. Thank you so much, Fin.